All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, I thank y'all for coming, even if y'all didn't have a choice. Um, so today I'm going to be talking about the corrupt American food industry and its impact on our health. I wanted to start off with a quote today because it kind of summarizes pretty well on why I chose the topic. It's by Dr. Rebecca Evans, and it says, Americans have grown to think that chronic diseases or disorders are normal. So when you look at America today, we are stereotypically an obese nation more so than any other nation in the world. We have ADHD, OCD, autism more than any other nation. Got some statistics here about American children. Around 7.5% of American children aged 6 to 17 are taking prescription medicine for emotional or behavioral difficulties. 11% of children aged 6 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD. 10% of all children will develop ODD, and 4% will be diagnosed with conduct disorders. So with a small list of statistics from American children, we see that America is very chronically diseased, and we have begun to see it as normal. So we must find the root for why we are so chronically diseased. When you look at our ancestral past or indigenous tribes around the world, you'll see that there was no chronic diseases or disorders. There's no autism, common allergies, OCD, whatever. And that's because of the diet, our diets. That's because of our diets. We see that American diet today is more processed than ever before, and that has caused us to causes us to be in a health crisis today. So I'm kind of going to talk about the corruption in the American food industry and how that has led to our health crisis today. So the first problem is our corrupt business practices, with the main problem being corporations prioritizing their profit over the health of consumers. This problem right here can be seen in pretty much any industry: self-care, fashion, clothing, any clothing or any industry at all. You see that they will prioritize their profit over how their product is affecting the consumer. But this is more so for the food industry because food obviously affects our health whenever we consume. So in the food industry, the corporations will intentionally cut costs through whatever method possible and make their products as cheap as possible so they can profit off of whatever they can. So a prime example of this is Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops is an American child staple. We all love Fruit Loops, but they're not good for you. So Fruit Loops is made by Kellogg's, and Kellogg's is based in the United States, and they will ship internationally. But however, for the international formula, they will make Fruit Loops cleaner without the artificial sugars, artificial food dyes, and whatever. But when they make it here in the U.S. and sell it to U.S. domestically, they'll sell the U.S. version with the artificial food dyes and artificial sugars. So they sell the U.S. the cheaper and unhealthier version. So the real question from this is why do corporations sell America's the more processed, unhealthier version? There's two reasons: cost efficiency. They're going to try to do it as cheap as possible and disregard the health implications of the food dyes or the sugars. And then two, a marketing strategy. They're going to use the food dyes to make the Fruit Loops brighter and try to profit off of consumers liking a brighter product. So again, all links back to trying to prioritize profit over the health of consumers. This right here is kind of a counterpoint to what I've said. Some people will say that consumers choose what they eat, but this is not necessarily true when you think of it from this point of view. The food industry manipulates choices through deceptive marketing and addictive ingredients. Going back to the Fruit Loops example, they're going to use deceptive marketing by marketing the product towards kids as healthy, and they use bright ingredients to sell it easier to kids. And then addictive ingredients, addictive sugars, they're going to use ingredients that it's going to cause us to overeat the product and then create unhealthy habits that are going to have health consequences later on. And then on the second point here, the industry targets low-income consumers, making unhealthy food the most accessible and affordable option. So consumers don't really get to choose what they eat. For poor citizens in America, they are vulnerable because they see healthy food options in America as expensive and inaccessible. So the The industry, corporations will see this and have an incentive to step in and make profit by directing their product towards the low-income consumers and making profit as much as they can and disregarding the health implications overall. The second problem is the misinformation and deceptive marketing strategies, with the main problem being the misuse of health-related labels and marketing towards children. So it's very common nowadays to see keywords such as organic, natural, sugar-free, low-fat, reduced sodium, no sodium, whatever you want. Companies do this they use keywords to make consumers feel incentivized to make a better, healthier choice overall. However, most of the time, I'm not going to make an absolute statement, but most of the time, it's not really true. They're going to use, companies are going to use these labels to make the consumers feel like they're making a healthier choice. But in reality, the products are most of the time not actually organic, natural, sugar-free. Like, you're not going to have sugar-free Oreos without actually tasting good. Sticking with the organic industry here, because it's the most high demand right now, I'd say. This is a quote from Balin Lincoln, who is a food lawyer. It says, "Organic labels give producers the opportunity to charge consumers more for their products. Companies are going to observe the financial incentives involved in this and may be tempted to mislabel inorganic foods as organic." I have two stats here. Around 71% of Americans bought food based on nutrition and ingredient labels. And for the organic industry, from 2010 to 2021, organic food sales have grown from 26.9 billion to 52 billion. So the industry is going to see that the organic sector is in such high demand. They're going to want to, kind of dip their toes in the water there and get into the organic sector, and they're most likely going to mislabel the foods as organic when in reality it's inorganic, and they're going to make profit off of that in whatever way possible and disregard the health implications as a whole. Next is marketing towards children. Marketing towards children. America is one of 2 countries in the world that is legally allowed to direct marketing food towards children, which is very unique. We kind of use that, again, to just make money. But marketing towards children, bright colors, cartoons, celebrities trick kids into wanting unhealthy foods. So the industry is going to want to manipulate children's psychology by, putting colors, cartoons, their favorite celebrity, whatever, on certain products to make kids want to buy them. And they will eventually see that these foods are not good for them. And then on the second point here, parents are manipulated into thinking these products are safe and beneficial. Parents are also manipulated because they see products in grocery stores that might seem healthy, but in reality, again, they're all processed and it's not going to be good for you overall. Next is government negligence and loose regulations, the failure of the FDA. So the FDA is the Federal Drug Administration and the USDA is the United States Department of Agriculture. These 2 government programs are tasked with regulating and ensuring safety in our industry to keep our food healthy and safe to consume. However, I would again say the majority of the time, the FDA and the USDA act in favor of the food industry and the large corporations in the industry, most likely to make money. For example, we have loose regulations on food dyes. So comparing ourselves to Europe, if you look at Europe, most European countries have banned food dyes or either have warning labels like this one on products that have food dyes. But in the US, we still allow our companies to use these artificial dyes, knowing the consequences of using them. But we allow them, the FDA and USDA allow them to still use them because it allows them to make their products as cheap as possible and, again, profiting off whatever they can. So the real question from this is, why does America still allow these loose regulations? The FDA is going to say it induces faster innovation, kind of, again, in the business